Hey guys, good morning. Look, Baxter's joining us. Do you see Baxter? We're like a zoo around here. I was almost late because I was chasing the puppy around the house trying to get stuff out of her mouth that shouldn't be in her mouth. You guys have puppies or dogs? She's a sweetheart, but she likes all of our stuff. All right. So happy Wednesday. Happy June. Happy the test for the tornado sirens is going off right now. Hopefully you can't hear that. It's just a test. It's the first Wednesday of the month, 11 a.m. So this week we're talking about relationships and what relationships have to do with anxiety. So in this week's podcast, I talk about a few different ways that we can think about relationships, tools that we can bring to our relationships. And I made a cool cheat sheet for you so that you've got all of this handy. It's one of those that's good to refer back to because in different seasons of our lives, of course, we have different relationships. And sometimes we're more focused on, what things with the kids look like or with our friends. Sometimes it's a lot about family. And sometimes depending on work roles or work life or where you're working, how you're working, it can look like work relationships. And sometimes it's all of the above. And these tools apply to any of it, whether it's romantic, friendly, work, neighborly, whatever. So grab the cheat sheet. It's at kellyhanlonmccormick.com/podcast/18. This is episode 18 of the Transforming Anxiety podcast. We've got a few people jumping on. Good morning. Okay, so one of the first things that I want to tell you about relationships and stress and anxiety, we tend to blame other people for how we're feeling. This person makes me anxious. This person stresses me out. This person makes me angry. Right? This is a really common way that we talk about different people, that we explain our relationships, that we talk about, the dynamics that we have in certain families or in certain work situations or with friendships that get complicated, right? So what I want to remind you, go back to episode number 5 if you need a little refresher of this, but our relationships, we have to remember the thought line. Other people, so anybody that you're in a relationship with, whether this is a partner, a spouse, parents, kids, coworkers, anybody that we're in a relationship with, the other person is a circumstance. You can't control them. They are outside of you. They get to do and be and say whatever they want to do and be and say, right? Other people get to be other people. You have to remember when you feel like somebody is stressing you out or when somebody's making you anxious or when somebody's making you angry, that you're having a thought about them that is creating the stress or the anxiety or the anger. Other people don't get to make you mad. Your thoughts about other people make you mad, right? This is just a good thing to remember. This is good information to hang on to. Other people don't have the power to stress you out. Other people don't have the power to make you anxious. That doesn't happen. Our thoughts about other people make us mad. Our thoughts about other people make us anxious. Now, I want to remind you, there are some people that are easier to be around for certain people, and there are some people that are more difficult for people to be around. Right? We're human beings. This is all kind of messy. It's all complicated. We're all just being human beings. Just because somebody is difficult for you to remember that they don't make you mad, right? Even though it's easy to kind of fall into the trap of like, this person stresses me out or this person makes me mad. That person never makes you mad. We just have to practice remembering that your thoughts about that person make you mad. And that person is just being that person. That person is totally neutral. That person is just reality. They get to be who they are. Okay? I know this is one of those mind-bendy things, but this is the first thing I talk about in the podcast. We have to separate circumstances from thoughts. This is some of the most important work we do in coaching, is separating circumstances from thoughts. And something that is always a circumstance is another person, right? Anytime we feel like we have a problem, and this is anything in life, relationships and otherwise, anytime there's a problem, the problem is a thought, always. Problem is never a circumstance. So let me give you some examples. So this is the example that I used in the podcast. There are circumstances about us as people, right? Like a circumstance about me is my height, right? That's just a fact. I'm 5 feet 4 inches tall. So everybody experiences me at 5 feet 4 inches tall. That's a fact, that's a circumstance. Now, some people experience me as wonderful and funny, right? Some people experience me as neurotic and not funny at all, right? That's a thought. Now, here's why I'm telling you that. Circumstances have something to do with me. My height is something about me. That's something we can all agree on. Everybody experiences me at 5 feet 4 inches tall. Whether or not you think I'm great, whether or not I'm funny or not, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the other person, the person I'm in relationship with. So some people, like my brother, thinks I'm hilarious. Okay? My husband does not always think I'm so funny, right? He mostly thinks I'm funny, sometimes not so much. But that doesn't tell you anything about me, right? I've just told you there's two people. Here's one who thinks I'm funny. Here's one who doesn't think I'm funny, right? That doesn't tell you anything about me. I've just given you a baseline for what funny is for my brother and what funny is for my husband. That's it. I've told you something about them. I haven't told you anything about me. When I tell you somebody thinks I'm funny, I'm telling you something about them. I'm not telling you something about me. So we have to remember this. This goes both ways in relationships. How you think about another person is what creates your feelings about that person. It's what creates the stories that you tell, the beliefs that you have about that person. It's all in your thoughts. So here's the most important part. Here's the point of all of this. Relationships are 100% based on thoughts. There are no good people, there are no bad people, there are no right people, there are no wrong people, there are no great people or funny people or anything. People are just people. How you think about different people creates all of your experiences and all of your relationships with those people. It's all based on how you're thinking, right? So there's think of somebody like, I can think of this with me and my husband. There's certain people that, of course, we both know. We have a lot of mutual friends. And some of them I think are fantastic or hysterical. I can't get enough of them, right? And some of them my husband's like, meh, I can take it or leave it, right? If that was about the other person, he and I would have to have the same opinion about that person. If it was a fact that that person was hilarious, or if it was a fact that that person was fantastic, we'd have to agree. That would be a circumstance. The things that we can agree on are things like that person is 5'10", that person has brown hair, right? Those are the things that we can agree on about a person. So all of your relationships are based on your thoughts. They're not circumstances. They're not facts about another person. We create beliefs. We create stories, and then our whole relationship is based on our thoughts about that person. So this is just good to remember. This is good to know. Anytime you have a feeling and you're saying to yourself, this person is stressing me out, stop and find the thought that's creating the stress. It's always there. Now, for some really fun stuff. And I don't go too into this in the podcast, but this is easier to talk about when I'm actually coaching somebody. For a good time, if there is somebody that you find to be super stressful, they just make you anxious, you can hardly be with them, right? Then we start finding the thought, right? And a lot of times the thought is going to be something like, this person shouldn't act this way. The person shouldn't talk about this stuff. The person shouldn't believe this stuff. They shouldn't vote that way, right? There's all sorts of different thoughts that we can have about a person that create feelings of stress and anxiety, right? So then we find the thought. And it's always fun when the thought is something like, he shouldn't be acting that way. He shouldn't be talking that way. Because then I always invite my client, can you find that truth, that thought in yourself? Can you turn that around and see where, if you're saying he shouldn't be acting that way, he shouldn't be talking that way, can you turn it around and find places where you have acted or talked in ways that you shouldn't have acted or talked? Pretty good, huh? We can almost always find that, of course. We're human beings. This is messy stuff. Of course there are places where we have acted out of alignment with who we are and who we want to be. Of course there are times that we have said things that we shouldn't have or didn't want to or didn't mean. Just like the person we are in relationship with. So when you find these thoughts, turn these thoughts around. And here's the important part of turning that thought around. When you find where that's true for you, when you find where you've got some work to do in how you're acting or how you're talking, right? How you're being in the world, how you're being with this other person, you do your work. You clean up your side of the street. That's the most important part. That other person, they have to take care of their side of the street. They have to clean that up. That's their business. It's none of our business what anybody else should ever do or say, how they should vote, how they should think, how they should act. It's never our business. My only business is in how I want and believe and feel I should talk and act and behave. That's it. I don't get to control my husband. I don't get to control my kids. I can't control anybody, my clients, right? And it seems so maddening. There's times where we're like, but can't they just see if they just would do this, right? Or if they would just quit this, everything would be so much better. Who are we to say, right? How can we ever know what anybody else's path should ever be? If you're seeing somebody that needs to start or quit something, look and see, like, what do you need to start and quit? Right? Where is that work undone for you? Where are you still waiting to do some of that? Right? We have to stay on our side of the street. We have to allow other people to have their side of the street. We cannot control it anyway. We try so hard. We try so hard to control what they're saying or how they're feeling or how they're acting. We tell them, we explain to them. They're never going to get it. How they're acting is driven by their feelings, and how they're feeling is driven by how they're thinking. That's how I know we have no control over how they act. Their actions are controlled by how they think. That's it. Our actions are controlled by how we think. 100%, always, all the time. So stop beating your head against the wall of trying to control other people. It never works, ever. And it feels terrible all the time. Michelle's here. Hi, Michelle. I love you too. Stop trying to control other people. We can't do it. Control yourself. And if you're having a thought that's making you mad, if you're having a thought that's making you stressed, find where that's true about yourself and you clean up your side of the street. Let them have their side of the street. If you're anything like me, there's plenty of work to do on your side of the street. Right? We don't need to run around controlling other people and cleaning up their side of the street because we've all got plenty of our own stuff to do. We don't need to worry about their stuff. Okay? So, relationships, remember, there are circumstances and there are thoughts. Circumstances about people are very few and far between. Things like height. Things like with my neighbor, a circumstance is that I bought this house and they bought that house. That's a circumstance, right? Anything else that happens in our neighborly relationship is all based on our thoughts. Very few circumstances in relationships. Relationships are thoughts. They are how you are thinking about another person. Got it? All right. Then when you find the thought, turn it around and see where you can find the truth of that thought in you. And that is the work you have in front of you. That is the work you need to do. Instead of trying to control the other person, instead of trying to convince them of what they need to do and how they need to clean up their side of the street, find that work in you. There's Poppy. Hey, Poppy girl. She's causing trouble over there. Find that work in you. Clean up your side of the street. There's always plenty we all have to do on our side of the street. Always. So do that first. Okay? It doesn't mean we don't make requests of other people. It doesn't mean that we don't interact, of course, with other people. And we say, hey, it would be great if you would take out the trash. Hey, do you want to make dinner? Hey, here's how I would like for us to talk to the kids. Right? We make requests all the time. That part's 100% fine. We just don't hang our happiness on the request and whether or not the other person complies with them. So if I have this expectation and I have this idea that my husband should always take out the trash, and he doesn't take out the trash, and I say, hey, what the heck? Take out the trash. And he says, meh, no. Right? That's not his job. Right? I'm an adult. If I want the trash taken out, I need to take the trash out myself. Right? The thought he should be taking out the trash is what would make me frustrated in that situation, not the fact that he's not taking out the trash. If I have an idea and an expectation that he needs to be taking out the trash, that thought, that idea is what creates my feelings about my husband taking out the trash. Whatever he does, it has nothing to do with how I feel. He can do or not do whatever. It's all his business. Sound good? I know this is kind of mind-bendy stuff. When we really start practicing this and we let other people be who they are, and we show up and we say, you can take the trash out or not. I'd love it if you did. But if you don't, I love you anyway. Because I get to choose how I think about you. I get to choose how I feel about you based on how I think about you. And I can choose whether to hang on to the idea that you must be taking the trash out or not. And if you really think about it, if you get really honest about it, this stuff doesn't feel good. If we hang on to the idea that certain people need to do certain things in order for us to feel a certain way, first of all, you're giving all of your power over to somebody else. We have to wait and see if the husband is going to take out the trash in order for the wife to feel happy or taken care of. All of a sudden has no control over whether she's happy if she's pinned her happiness on having her husband act a certain way. You're hosed when you lead your life that way, right? But if you can take full responsibility, if you can take that power back for yourself and say, hey, it would be great if I clean up the kitchen and you take out the trash, right? And you still get to do whatever you want to do because I can manage my mind around this situation. Baxter says hi. Right? Whether or not you do this or not has nothing to do with how I feel about you. What a gift to give other people. Right? If my husband just knows that I'm going to love him no matter what, he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to do or say anything in a particular way. Right? He doesn't ever have to take the trash out again. Ever. It has nothing to do with whether I love him or not. It's such freedom. He's like off the hook. And here's the thing, folks. The likelihood of him wanting to help me out, wanting to contribute to the household, wanting to take care of the family, wanting to take care of the house is so much higher when he doesn't have all of those expectations that he needs to act a certain way in order to receive somebody's love or attention. That if he doesn't act a certain way, he's going to get the brunt of anger and frustration and irritation. When that is just taken off the table and we don't have to worry about that anymore, and he knows that he can take the trash out or he can not take the trash out, and then I'm going to love him no matter what, that I'm going to be happy no matter what, that is my job to do. It's not his job. He is free. And like I said, the likelihood of him wanting to participate and take care of me and do things like take out the trash or anything else, so much higher, right? But it really doesn't matter because he and I both get to experience so much love and ease when I've taken him off the hook of you have to act this way in order for me to feel this way. Makes sense? Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your questions are. I can't wait to hear from you on this one. I go into much more in the podcast. The worksheet is awesome. So grab that, kellyhanlonmccormick.com/podcast/18. Next week, we're going to talk about money and anxiety. A lot of these things, we tend to blame our stress and anxiety outside of us, right? It's because of the weather. It's because of the politics. It's because of the people. It's because of the money. It's because of my weight. It's because of my debt. It's because anything. We take all of that and we push it outwards and we blame it on external things. So this whole lifestyle piece, we're still walking through the lifestyle elements of the third pillar, the lifestyle pillar of my whole system for transforming anxiety. And we're taking power back in each of these situations, right? Each of these circumstances. We're reminding ourselves other people are a circumstance. Other people, therefore, don't get to control how we feel. Our relationships are completely based on how we're thinking, right? So we're going to do similar, but we're going to go into the money work next week, where we're going to separate money from stress and anxiety. Money cannot stress you out. Money doesn't have that kind of power over you. You're probably figuring this out now, right? It's how you think about money that creates stress and anxiety, right? So, but I've got a whole bunch of specific money things that we're going to work on, money tools. So we're going to talk about that next week. For now, you guys have an awesome week. See what you can do. Bring this stuff to your relationships. DM me, send me a comment, find me on Instagram, and we can chat more about it. And don't forget, you can always get your free mini session with me. Go to kellyhanlonmccormick.com/coaching, and you can sign up for a free 15-minute mini session with me. We can chat about relationships and all of the difficult people in your life and how, of course, they make you feel awful and how it's definitely their fault. And we can clean it all up. It'll be a good time. All right. So I'll see you next week. Have an amazing week. Money, money, money next week. All right. Bye for now, guys.